Thank you for joining me today. I'm glad you're here. My name is Jerrel Dulay. I develop games for a living, and this is my new segment on the Sungrand channel, Game Dev Explains. In this segment, I will be breaking down and analyzing different videos from across the internet and sharing my perspective as a game developer, and I will answer the questions you may have regarding the details and the goings-on of these videos. Today we have a road rage incident. A man cut off some drivers, and he was followed by those drivers, and then men got out of their vehicles. One man brandished a knife, and so let's go ahead and take a look at the video here. So the man in the white shirt and the pants that are just too tight, this is the offender. This is the man that cut off the other driver, and the driver is a man and wife, and the man and the wife here. So what I want to point out for starters here, this is probably the question that most people have, is what's up with this. So this is what happens in games, and this is the result of us getting rid of loading screens. What's happened is this man's model and his textures have loaded in. So when we have a 3D game, you have two components basically to the visuals. You have the 3D model and you have the textures that go with that model, and of course you have the animations as well, but generally those don't have to load in the way that the models do. The models these days are very high poly count. So what's happened is this man has loaded in his model, and instead of loading things during a loading screen, we now load them during gameplay, whereas if you'll notice, this man here, his graphics have not loaded in all the way. So we start out with a lower quality character model, and you can see this is probably the worst that I've seen. So I'm not sure what these developers, what system they were working on or what kind of testing, but what can affect this is the media on which you have the game stored. If you are running your game off a micro SD card, if it's a slower micro SD card, this can happen. Generally, when we install games to a solid state drive storage, they tend to be pretty fast, but even those don't last forever. So you can see the distortion on that character there is the result of models not loading in fully. Now, we see an exchange here, and there's an animation that I want you to pay attention here. So have a look at this animation where this character swings the knife just there. Now, it may look like that made contact, but in actuality, it's quite far away, right? It's just the placement of the camera, and the placement of the camera really dictates, and the movement and the flow of gameplay and the speed of gameplay determines how big your hitboxes should be. This is a situation where I think they're trying to go for hyper-realistic, but honestly, the visuals are still really blurry. Just in my opinion, it's fine if you like this. So what's going on here is that it seems like the developers have designed a hitbox where it's so literal. The hitbox is literally just the knife itself. Now, for my own games, I generally make hitboxes pretty big, but again, it depends on the camera angle, the placement of the camera, and the flow of gameplay. For games like Super Smash Bros., Smash Bros. Ultimate, there is a running joke that people have on the internet where the hitboxes are just too big, they're unrealistic. If this were, say for example, using the design philosophy of Smash Bros., that hit would have landed. The hitbox would have been way bigger, but we are not even sure what kind of hit this is. So it's so important when you are designing your character animations is to consider the windup. And I don't personally feel that this is a very good attack animation. And the reason being is that there isn't a windup. It doesn't matter how something looks in real life as much as what matters more is how good something looks. Conveyance. What are you saying it and how are you saying it? And you can see that there's a lack of windup, and so this attack, it looks and feels really flimsy. There's no pull back. What's important is your wind-up frame. You have the character pull back. And again, if you take a look at a game like Smash Bros., the characters always pull back, and if you hold the button, there's like a shaking with the character. And when you release, there is a stretch frame, there's an impact frame, and a follow-through. Let's go ahead and judge that. So there's a lack of wind up to this, so you don't even get the telegraph. This is barely reactable, except the fact that it's reactable is because it's so slow. It's very slow in the beginning, which doesn't sell the power of the attack. So there wasn't really any stretch frame here, and that's a huge problem. is because the players need to know at which point the hitbox will be active, and it has to look good, you know, when it contacts the enemy. Sometimes we use like freeze frames when there's an impact. So let's take a look at the follow through here. And I don't think that was a very good follow through. Have a look at the arm swings around and it just comes, sort of winds back in. So it's not really selling a sense. See how it just swings back around? So it's not, and I'm going to say it's not realistic, but that's not what is important. What is important is that it looks good and that you're saying something and that you're conveying something interesting. So what's happened here is that this is the victim here. This is the guy that cut off. This is the guy that got threatened. This is the aggressor here, the man with the very, very tight pants. And I'm just going to say this now. If you have a gut like this, you can't wear pants like this. I'm telling you now, you're not allowed to wear pants this tight if your gut hangs out that far. There's a limit to what you are allowed. So I think this is actually why this guy was actually arrested, was the crime against fashion. So if we take a look here, the NPC, his AI routine changes. So when it comes to AI, I'm not talking about generative AI, I'm talking about game AI. And what we have to consider when we are creating game AI are routines. We basically have modes, right? So I would consider characters, you know, mode 0 is there's nothing going on, the character's just standing still. Mode 1 might be the character is alerted to the player's presence and is approaching the player and is following the player. And mode 2 would be the NPC is now aggressive, the NPC is attacking. Mode 3 might be the NPC is now retreating. So if we consider routines, the AI routine or the AI mode, this AI is in attack mode right here, this NPC, and the thing that changes that is that the other character has now brandished a weapon, and it's a stronger weapon. Now, we understand what a weapon is. We know that guns are more advantageous than a knife. For example, a gun has longer range, right? You can hit from much farther away. In general, most of the time in games, they do way more damage, the gun does, but the gun can run out of ammunition, but you're basically outranged at this point. So Muffin Top Tight Jeans Man has now switched his AI routine. His AI routine has gone to defensive and gone to retreat. And so the way that you can implement this is that your AIs, your NPCs, need to be able to know which characters they are engaging, right? So these two have to be able to reference each other. So in your code there, in your game logic, you have to be able to reference which character are you currently engaging, and you have to be able to intermittently check which weapon that character has equipped, the one that you're referencing, your engaged combatant, right? And so these characters can't know this weapon is better than that one because they're not really weapons. It's just lines of code, right? These are all just graphics. So the way that you implement this is you have to create the game logic that assigns a value that says threat level, for example, or threat value, right? I would say threat level. Okay, so I would assign the knife a threat level of 5. 5 is a good base number because it means that you can use funny weapons, joke weapons, as a lower point, right? So like, say for example, they brought out like an anime waifu pillow. I would assign the threat value of that to 1, whereas a knife would be 5. And I would say a pistol would be a threat value of 10. So intermittently, I wouldn't do it every single frame because you're going to incur a huge processing cost, especially if there's multiple NPCs that are engaged in combat. So intermittently, every second, every other second, and then you would stagger that by a few frames so that it's not causing hiccuping in your game logic. So what you do is check your currently engaged combatant, who are you engaged with, and then check the weapon that they currently have equipped, and then you can then logically change your AI routine by comparing. You say, oh well, my weapon I have is only a threat value of 5, and the other character has a threat value of 10, and then you can decide to change your AI logic. So that's what's going on here is so Muffin Top Tight Jeans is now calling in reinforcements, which is a really, really interesting AI routine. I'm not sure why the developers would have chosen to do that. I think it's funny. It's not that, so the problem is this isn't that realistic, you know, because this is Muffin Top Man is the aggressor. He's the one that started this fight. He's the one that threatened with the knife. So for him to call the police, it's not that realistic. So I personally would have put more logic in there. I would have checked and kept track of what the characters are doing. But again, it's so hard. It's actually hard to keep track of what the characters have done. Most games don't keep track of, you know, a history of actions. So I'll change my tune a little bit. I think I won't blame them in this situation. It's logically funny for us because we understand a chain of events, right? We have memory to understand that, whereas logically this doesn't really happen. And this for me, and this is one reason why I always, if I can, I turn off camera shake. It's moments like this that really disrupt the action. Is the camera shake can be a little too much. This here, and I know why they do it. Like it makes moments feel more dramatic, more impactful. I don't personally like that kind of, so I always turn that kind of camera shaking off. So you can see that this is the kind of situation where just having the weapon equipped and then pointing it. So there are some flaws here that maybe the developers, it's not in their control that much, but this is a situation where I would say, you know what, bring back loading screens, because I'm kind of sick of seeing models load in at higher quality and then other ones are just like, this is basically pixels, right? You can count the pixels on there. So I would rather we have a loading screen. I would say that maybe they should bring on an animator who has more experience with humanoid animations, because some of the animations are not that convincing in this. But I think the logic it's pretty good here. It's not that bad. So I hope you've enjoyed taking a look at this scene. I hope you've enjoyed the breakdown, and I hope this is able to help you on your game development journey. Or if you're not into game development, I hope this helps you understand games better and the work that we have to put in as developers. Okay, thanks very much. And if you would like to suggest a video to me, you can do so over on Patreon. Send me a message on Patreon if you would like me to do a technical breakdown and analysis on some video that you found on the internet. I trust that you will take good care of yourselves. See you around.